Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 18 of the PowettPlay Podcast. I'm Jordan Shannon. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Kieran Powell. How are you, Kai?
I'm good, Jordan. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. How was it getting stuck back into cricket?
Uh, Dr. Water, isn't it?
Well,
Like you
the way you
never left.
batted, mate, it definitely was. I know I sent you a message. I thoroughly enjoyed watching you bat because there was what I really enjoyed the most is obviously we spoke the day before and you were talking about just hitting a few balls, this and that, and then you said look, I'm just going to try to leave a few and get sort of my eye in sort of thing, and it was just the way you spoke about it and then how you did it was literally exactly how you exactly what you said sort of thing. You just made it look so easy.
I think it helps that we were playing in Sinkets as well. Obviously,
Yeah.
being from this, I guess you consider Sinkets my adopted home ground. And that's where the franchise is based as well. So we know the conditions well.
Yeah.
I think that it was a bit interesting as well because the ball did a lot less than I expected it to do. In terms of through the year, there wasn't really much swing on offer, which isn't normally the case in Sinkets. The ball normally does something, so that was interesting. There wasn't really much spin on offer as well, so that made it even more interesting as to, I guess, how Trinidad got out in the first innings, in their first innings. But yeah, it was a match overall.
Yeah. No, I just thought the way that you went about it in terms of early on leaving the ball quite a lot, but then obviously cashing into anything sort of remotely full. But one thing I did pick up on, and I know I'm not just saying it obviously because I'm on the pod with you and I speak with you on a regular basis, but I think the way that you spoke to some of the younger lads with some of the shots that they made or some of the shots that they played I picked up on it so much because it's so important. And I always spoke about this so many times before about this experience aspect, but I think it was a couple of times when Mikhail Lewis, I think one of them was a short ball that he went to play, and another one was a bit of a full one that he just sort of dived into a bit too much. And the way obviously I don't have a clue what you said to him, but I seen obviously you went down and had a chat with him. You can sort of see how he sort of recomposed himself a bit. And I don't think that, whether it be test cricket, whether it be, franchise cricket T20 wise, or even league cricket, the importance of having somebody at the other end who can help guide you just through, it might just be a single word or it might not be anything. You might not need to say anything. You might just be a little bit of a look. I don't know. It really stuck with me and resonated with me with the way that is so important for any sort of form of cricket.
Yeah, I think as a senior player, obviously, my role, especially in the batting sort of things, is not only a performance based thing, but it's also to help, I guess, not guide and bring along the younger players.
Yeah.
Especially Mikhail being an opening batter and being in such form. It's important that he sort of doesn't take it for granted because he's 2-3 games into his professional career and he hasn't had a taste of failure yet. So he doesn't know I guess understand that it's not always going to be hundreds and fifties. They're going to be bad days. They're going to be bad games. They're going to be bad seasons.
Yeah.
And so it's just for me to keep him present at the moment. Not get too far ahead in terms of thinking that. You can't play every and any shot because you're in form. You still have to, I guess, value your wicket and put a price on the way you play and cash in on this moment because, these moments won't last forever and you want to maximize, especially at the start of your career, as much as possible, every run scoring opportunity you get.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's, again, it's that piece of advice where you probably do feel $1 million, but sport in general and in particular cricket, it could take one lapse of concentration and that $1 million is now down at, it's a confidence thing at times. It's also remaining that sort of level headed in a way of, understanding the broad, the bigger picture in terms of remaining focused. And I think my main point I was getting to is the fact that when you've got somebody like you at the other end, he's always going to remain, or the batters especially who you're speaking with, they're always going to remain grounded in the way that they're going to remain focused in terms of like what's around the corner, because you've been there before yourself. You know how it feels to feel $1 million, but you also know what it feels like to, you know, to get yourself in a little bit of a rut at a time. And I think that we spoke about it before Christmas, I think it was, or just after, it would have been just after Christmas, when the West Indies obviously toured Australia, and we spoke about obviously the West Indies lineup. You know, it's got, you know, it's full of talent, but it hadn't got that necessary experience in that 11 from a batting side of things that potentially could help them so much more and nurture them to that next level. And I think that, you know, with them having you around is going to have a massive impact on them down the line.
Yeah, hopefully it's not just mentorship, but performances from myself as well. You know, I'm looking to have another big season.
Yeah.
Obviously, with 4 games left, we're on a 2-week break now, so I think we're back on the 13th of March.
Yeah, I think I checked the fixtures before. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we're back in Trinidad against CCC. We're sort of on a roll where we've won the last 2 matches now after losing the first match. So I guess looking to carry that momentum throughout the season now, obviously having suffered an early defeat and, you know, building on that, and team understanding where I guess they fell short in that first match. Obviously I wasn't a part of that. Where they rebounded that second match, again, I wasn't a part of that. And then how we've built on it in that third match, and what each individual needs to do to take the team one step further each and every time, I guess, to give ourselves a chance to be in the run for champions at the end of the season. I think we're in second place.
Leeward Islands atop, yeah.
Yeah. So, my experience, gathered with the experience of the other guys coming back in. I think we've got Justin Graves coming back in.
Oh, no, yeah.
Brown. I think O'Shane Thomas may be available as well.
Oh, right. Okay. Wow.
So we're coming close to full strength at the moment. You've seen, obviously, Mikael Louis have an amazing start to his career. You've seen Joel Andrew have an amazing start to his first-class career as well. The way he batted, 17 years old, and the shots he played, it was just refreshing. And I mean,
maturity beyond his years.
Yeah, we sort of expected it as Leeward Islands players, because I mean we practice with him, we know what he's capable of, but you know, to still go out and do it, because at the end of the day he still has to go out and do it. And obviously after having a tough start to his first class career, getting out for duck in the first game, I was there, but I heard he tried to hit his first ball for 6, and so me and him had a conversation, and then, you know, after he batted in the nets the day before the game, and you know, just a couple of things that he thought, and then I just gave a few suggestions of what I thought, and you know, other people chipped in as well. And he's special talent, special kid, and you know, we're really looking forward to a lot more from him, not just this season, but 20 years down the road.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think that, like I mentioned it then, I think he showed real maturity for his age. And not just his age, just obviously the volume of games he's played from a first-class perspective. So I think that, you know, there's huge potential, and I'm really looking forward to watching someone like himself develop, because I know you spoke of him so highly, you know, even before obviously the under-19s World Cup as well. So it's you know, it's nice for me to be able to sort of follow somebody's cricket journey from a bit of an outside perspective as well. So, but I think that you've got, you know, when you talk to him now for the next round of games, and obviously bringing in Justin Greaves and O'Shane Thomas is a real, you know, big statement, really. And I think it's going to, you know, leave you in a great opportunity to go and, win the championship and things. But how can we end up batting so low down the order second innings? You're just a bit of a tap.
As you can see, got a bit of a injury to my hand. I got hit 2 times in the same spot on the first day of the game when I was batting. Jaden Seals and Anderson Phillip, both pull shots, getting through the shot too early, got hit on my bottom hand, and I think it's a bone contusion.
Oh, right.
So,
okay.
They're expecting the recovery time to be 2 weeks. I think tomorrow marks a week, if I'm not mistaken. So, that's sort of given me just, I guess, a week out from the next match in terms of recovery time. So it's good to be able to get home, freshen up, obviously be with them, relax at home comforts, doing things that a husband does on a daily basis, sort of refresh and get away from I guess the game. Obviously, I've only been there for a week, but it's always nice to be back home. And I think the injuries coming along nicely. I've been doing lots of rehab since I've been back, 3-4 times a day.
Right. Okay.
Obviously, I can't do much. Well, I can't do any batting at the moment, but like I've been doing lots of fitness work and obviously rehab stuff, and my hand is a lot more mobile. Like I couldn't feel anything in my hand.
Oh, right.
On that second morning when I went to bat. So if you look at the tape, the physio came out and sort of strapped my hand, but like I couldn't grip the bat. Like there's no power, there's no feeling.
Right.
In
Okay.
my hand. And it was swollen maybe 2-3 times its actual size. So I couldn't do much whilst batting because like I really wanted to obviously kick on and try and get the century there. But I mean, these things happen. That wasn't meant to be. I'm still happy that I got a score. Not sure why I was asked to bat in the second innings when we needed 10 runs.
I was going to say when you came, I just assumed I assumed you picked up something because obviously watching it back and stuff. And then when I seen that you came out to bat, I was just a bit confused. And then I thought, is it just give someone else an opportunity? It just didn't really make much sense. But then obviously now it does make sense.
Yeah, exactly. But no, the progression is going along nicely of my recovery from this injury. So hopefully, I'd say by Monday, I'll try and start doing maybe some tennis ball drills, low impact activity on my hands, and try and just get back into the rhythm of hitting some balls. I know the team travels to Trinidad next week, Sunday.
Right, okay.
So we hopefully be able to get maybe a few sessions in before that and really put my hand through a good solid test to ensure that I am fit and ready to go.
No, definitely. Hopefully anyway, it's, you'll be back in no time, hopefully. And obviously the game was quite a landmark for Rahkeem Cornwall. He, took his 400th first class wicket, and again, someone who I've watched, a lot over the past 12 months. But one thing I noticed more so, especially in this game, is consistency with the ball. It's frightening. He just doesn't seem to bowl many bad balls.
Well, interestingly enough, I don't even think that he's bowling as well as he can do, and he's got, I think, 14 or 15 wickets. So, I mean, now that he's getting into a rhythm, like it's I guess for the teams coming up, it's going to be scary days, because I think that he can get a lot more turn than what he's getting, a lot more fizz off the pitch.
Right.
I think that his length could be a lot more attacking. I think he's over pitching at the moment, and he's still destroying batters. So I think that probably the next 4 games you'll see the best of him. And I mean, I think that it could be pushing 45, 50 wickets this season. I can easily see another 30 wickets in the next 4 games.
Wow. One thing I picked, again, only from watching it, obviously from on YouTube, really, was the dip he seems to get.
Yeah.
It seems to be so hard. I can imagine, batting, it must be so hard to pick the way he goes over the top of the ball. And if you're saying, obviously, that you feel like he's not, into his full rhythm yet, he's definitely a frightening prospect for the rest of the Caribbean.
Yep, 100%. And when you think of it, you put it into, I guess, perspective. He's just crossed 3,000 first-class runs as well. I think maybe the match before this.
Match before that, yeah.
It's an all-round effort from Jimbo, and obviously we know that he catches and the slip as well. So it's something that he's been doing over a long period of time, both bat and ball. And I think what's nice to see as well is that the other bowlers this season are coming along as well. So he's actually not our leading wicket taker. Jeremiah Lewis up there, I think, with 17 wickets or something. Daniel Durham, who's
Darren, yeah.
extremely consistent and an amazing partner for Jimbo, because Jimbo's not giving you much and he's not giving you absolutely anything on the other end. He's just right there at you all the time. And that really, in terms of us building pressure and bowling in partnerships. And it's really good as well, obviously, having one left arm spinner and one right arm off spinner. So you have the two variations that you can attack with. So I think that the team is in a good place. Obviously, as I said, with the likes of Justin and potentially O'Shane coming back in, that's going to bolster, obviously, both the seam bowling department and the batting department with Justin as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But the guys are really excited about, I guess, where we are. Unfortunately, we won't be having Alzari this season for any games, I don't think. Which is a big miss, because when he plays 4-day cricket, it's basically a wrap from ball one. Like, I can't remember the last time he's played a 4-day match for the Leewards and hasn't taken a 5-wicket haul. Wow. I think the last 5 games he's played, he's taken a 5-wicket haul in each of at least one innings of each of those matches. So it's always really good to have him around. Yeah, that X factor seamer in collaboration with Jimbo. It's really good. So guys are just happy, really good position, and looking to push on.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll obviously touch base over the next few weeks and stuff. I'm looking forward to see how it all unfolds and hope. I want to sort of go on to the England Test match now between India. Well, it's between England and India that finished yesterday. Did you get a chance to see much of that at all?
Again, sort of clippings of it, obviously, because of my match and then travel and all these other things. But I'm well aware of, I guess, what sort of happened with it. Obviously, being in the Caribbean, it was, I think, starting at like midnight and stuff. But like, I generally slept with, I guess, the match on. My subconscious could pick up what was sort of happening in the game.
Yeah. Well, I think, obviously, touching on what we discussed last week in terms of, I know I had my little bit of a rant about Joe Root, and I was just chuffed to bits for him to sort of get that score, because it just went to show that, leaving that that aggressive side, or that sort of, forced aggression maybe in his part, he went out there and just batted in the way that Joe Root's batted or has batted for his career, and it just goes to show how important he is in that side, but also his role is just letting him bat, really.
I mean, that's sort of what we discussed last week. Like, there's good and bad sides to, I guess, this approach that the England team have taken. Obviously, one of the major sticking points with most pundits around the world that I've heard last week is basically what we've discussed as well, is just letting Joe Root play. Yeah. I mean, he's coming up to 12,000 test runs. Yeah. And as I said last week, he's the only person on earth that will ever come close to, if not breaking, Sachin's test tally. Yeah. I don't think anyone's going to come close to it after this. No. And so you don't get to be that level of player and have to go and play baseball. Like, you are the one thing that doesn't need to be touched in that whole ecosystem. Yeah. And he actually allows for it to work even more so, because you've got one solid player holding up one end, and so everyone can play freely around him, in my opinion. And when you look at Ben Stokes, and Ben Stokes at his best, he sorts of adopts a similar game plan to what Joe Root does. Like, he starts off, bides his time, waits for the very end before he attacks and really explodes. Yeah. But then he'd have seen all the bowlers, understood the conditions and what he needs to do. And so I think that, obviously kudos to Joe Root for making that change. How much of that change being successful was because Bumrah didn't play, we don't know.
And you can only bat against what's in front of you at the end of the day, can't you?
Exactly. But, I mean, this is a guy with 31 test centuries. I think they said, no, he's got 10 centuries against India. So
hell of an effort, consider from the India side of the last 10 years as well. So, and nobody can take that away from him. And
exactly,
it's there in black and white at the end of the day.
exactly.
And whether the instructions was from above in terms of, Joe, you going back the way you going back, or whether it's just something that whatever. The fact of the matter is that that's the best Joe Root when he's in that sort of mindset, when he's just in his box or in his zone, putting bad balls away, whether it's defending 2 or 3 overs back to back. That's just the way that Joe Root needs to play for England to sort of, in my opinion anyway, be that successful side, because we spoke about it before in 50 over cricket, how you have the role of an anchor, and you let your finishers and your explosive players go and do it. But obviously with the way that England are playing under this Bazball sort of approach, England have to have somebody who's going to be the glue. We spoke last week, obviously, about various other players in terms of that's the way they play because of the limitations. Well, Joe Root has got all the skills to be able to go and do that anyway. But the way that he can help England out is actually just by being Joe Root. And I also think that'll have an impact on the other lads in the team when, as we spoke about previously as well, is that there's always going to be times during a test match where you can't go gung-ho and you can't go aggressive. And when they see such a senior figure like Stokes at times, like you mentioned, and as Root last week, in the last test, the likes of Zach Crawley and Ben Duckett, yes, you can be completely proactive and aggressive, but at times it's okay to leave it, for a maiden to take place, or 2 consecutive or 3 consecutive quiet overs. It's okay. Because it's test cricket, it's allowed to happen, so you don't have to put yourself under pressure to pull out a stupid shot, which is sometimes what's happened during this sort of Bazball era. I don't want to say era, but under this sort of phase of aggressive cricket, because some of the key moments in the game have gone by a lapse of concentration or that too aggressive approach, which has led to a wicket, which has led to the fall of wickets, which is something that happened in this test really when England lost 7 wickets for 35 runs in the second innings. You look at, I think India got over the line a lot easier than what was sort of perceived at one point, because when I got in the car to go to work yesterday, was they got 2 in 2 balls with when they got Sarfraz Khan out, and they needed 7 2-5 wickets in hand. It was obviously sort of I thought that there was a bit of a chance there, especially with the way that the wicket was playing at times. I thought there was an opportunity for England to sort of tie the series. Obviously, it didn't turn out to be the way, because the way that I thought Shubham Gill batted absolutely superbly, and I thought that Jurel showed again. We spoke about maturity. I thought the way he batted in the first innings, the way that he batted obviously in that second innings, showed that aggressive cricket is obviously, people see them, batters, stroke play perspective. But one thing I thought he did really, really well throughout both his innings was just rotate the strike. Constantly just rotated the strike, and he just killed that game in that second innings by just, by rotating the strike.
Yeah, that's important. Obviously, he's young in his test career as well, but to have, I guess, that level of calm, that wherewithal to understand that, the situation seems a lot bigger than what it probably was.
Yeah.
In retrospect, needing 70 with a day and a half to go, it's not really that much pressure.
Yeah.
When we break it down that way. But obviously, with a series on the line and being young in your career, it's going to have a lot more, I guess, pressure involved from a personal standpoint. And so for him to understand, and I guess batting in Shubman Gill really helped him as well, but for him to understand that, okay, obviously he got runs in the first innings, so he's got that bit of confidence about him and behind him as well. And to go and play the way in which he did, I think it definitely opens up an additional avenue for India in my mind, because obviously you've got the likes of Virat and Kale coming back at some point. They will come back into the team, but You've also got the likes of Rishabh Pant, who's going to be back in action during the IPL, and who will be back in the Indian team as well. So that's three proper batters coming back into this team. But I think what Drill has done is raised his hand to say that, okay, I'm not currently a first choice player, but if something happens to Pant or if something happens to one of the batters, I can even play as an out and out batter. So kudos to him. He's really, really impressed on that front, and he deserves, I guess, every opportunity going forward.
Yeah, no, I think you summarised that perfectly. Really, I think that the way that they've got this sort of conveyor belt of players coming through, and the way that they just sort of they're like a duck to water, as you mentioned at the very start of the pod. The way that they come into this side, I think that's sort of an environment that Rohit Sharma's obviously, with his captaincy side of things, is a way he's quite very sort of. I think I was reading an article that was talking about the differences between Kohli and Sharma. I said Kohli is very animated, very passionate, very, well, he's just superb, obviously, across all formats. But the way that Sharma's very relaxed and very sort of thing, they have that when they're in the team together. They have that perfect mix, and I think that once Kohli comes back into that side, I think you'll see that in that India side go to that next level again.
Yeah,
the skill perspective.
100%, and then you've got obviously the likes of Bumrah, who's probably going to come back into the next game. You've got Mo Shami, who's going to come back in probably at the end of the year. He's had the injury, surgery. Yeah, so he's missing the T20 World Cup and the IPL.
Yeah,
fortunately for him, but there's just so much talent there throughout that Indian ecosystem, as you've rightfully said. That it's just next man up mentality for them, and the next man up seems to be ready to go more often than not. So it's a really good place for Indian cricket to be. And I think that their, I guess, biggest thing right now is to try and find a way to win some sort of silverware, because they generally get deep into, I guess, tournaments or even into the World Test Championship finals, but they haven't been able to lift any silverware. No. And I guess that's what they'll be seeking most to sort of cap or crown off this period of Indian cricket.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to get your opinion a little bit on a comment that Brendan McCullum made. I think it was regarding the two spinners, so Hartley and Bashir, in terms of obviously saying that he wants them to be playing sort of like prominent roles in the county system, and playing plenty of first class cricket in England. Now, there's a bit of a predicament with Tom Hartley playing for Lancashire, who signed Nathan Lyon, and Bashir, who's playing Somerset, who've obviously got Jack Leach as the first spinner, the first option spinner. And I think that, it's okay, Brendan McCullum sort of making these sort of statements, but at the end of the day, it's, even though I think Old Trafford is the ground in the UK, the ground in England that has the most overs of spin played during a first class game, but I still can't see them playing two spinners, and I sure as hell can't see him bowling more overs than Nathan Lyon. So I'm not really sure how these lads sort of get that next sort of development phase, really.
Well, not only that, obviously them not being the first choice spinners at their counties, but then you look at weather conditions in the UK as well, which doesn't warrant you playing two spinners, especially for, let's say, 66% of the season. It's only probably at the middle to the back end of the season that, I guess, two spinners even become a thought. So I guess it's a situation where England have to, I guess, send an SOS to the counties in terms of, I guess, maybe these guys going and playing for another county that doesn't have a first choice spinner. Is Jack Leach still England's number one spinner? Has Bashir overtaken him now? If that's the case, does Bashir get the nod at Somerset? Does Jack Leach have to go out on loan?
Yeah.
Again, Lancashire have signed Nathan Lyon. Obviously, 500 plus test wickets. Do they then sort of come to an arrangement where Nathan Lyon doesn't play for Lancashire? Does he go and play for another county? Does Hartley go and play for another county? What's going to be done there? Because obviously these two guys have have done really well. I mean, being very inexperienced first-class cricketers,
Yeah.
not even test cricketers, just first-class cricketers. And the mettle that they've shown on this tour warrants them being able to get opportunities to continue to develop, because I think Bashir in particular has a very bright future for England. You know, he looks the part. He bowls at a good pace. He spins the ball. Seems to handle pressure very well. He can bowl very long spells for someone that hasn't played much cricket. You know, he bowled so many overs in that last match, and I think that, you know, England have unlocked something with these two again that are like in terms of an off spin and a left arm spinner as a pairing going forward, especially in subcontinental conditions. Not sure how much they'll probably be able to play together in England, for example. But you sort of think back not too far when you cast your mind's eye back to a Monty Panesana, Graham Swan, and you sort of have a similar pairing here again. And so it's a good problem to have, but it's a problem that needs to be addressed as well, because you can't afford for them to come back to the UK and, for example, at the start of the season, they're playing matches, but they're playing and they're not bowling at all in an innings because it's just so seamer friendly, or they're not playing at all and they have to wait until mid to end of the season. You know, it'd be better to send them off somewhere to maybe a spin camp in India or something where they could continue to hone their skills, if that's the case. Yeah,
definitely. And obviously without opening up a whole new topic in terms of the ECB sort of schedule, you mentioned there about sort of a set period of time where the wickets might be a bit more conducive to spin as we get into the English summer. So you've got June, July and August, where I think they only play 4 first-class matches in that 3-month period. So you've got November through to May, where I think they play 6. She's going to be seamer friendly, you know. And if you look in Lancashire's instance, you know, they're going to be producing tracks that are Jimmy Anderson friendly. That's what you're going to, you know, at the end of the day, he's going to be playing first-class cricket before the test matches start. You know, you're going to be catering for, you know, England's all-time leading test wicket taker. It's just, that's how it's going to go. And you mentioned there regards Shoib Bashir and obviously Jack Leach. Well, that's obviously down to Somerset to determine who they're going to go with. And really, obviously, that off the back of that is going to have an impact on England, really, because arguably the one who obviously starts at Somerset as the leading spinner is probably going to be the one that starts with England in the test situation. So I think that it's going to be an intriguing conversation that the counties are going to have with the lads, and obviously whether they have communication with England as well. I'm not sure, but I think at the end of the day, regardless of the situation, the 3 spinners and also some of the other spinners around the county circuit are going to be need to be having some form of strategy in terms of how do I get overs in, because if I don't play in the April period, or I'm not bowling as many overs as I need to in the April and May period, well, the white ball situation comes into it. I'm bowling 4 overs, completely different tactics. Before you know it, you're at the end of September, where the season's finished, and England go to, I don't know where England play in, say, November time or whatever. So
isn't the Ashes coming up
next year?
Okay.
So I think it starts November 25. It'll be, or December 25. I think it will be. And before you know it, and that's it. Before you know it, it just happens so quickly. So I do think that off the back of Shoib Bashir and Tom Hartley, there needs to be a little bit of a thought process to help these 2 youngsters out, because at the end of the day, I think they've come in for England, and it's been tough from a pressure perspective, but they performed very well, and both shown really good promising signs. But I don't think they should be left in the lurch. I think there needs to be some form of strategy from a long-term perspective to how do we help these along the way. And if that is them going out on loan and helping that happen, fine. But I
think there will definitely be communication from Brendan McCullum, Rob Key, the ECB to the counties. But at the end of the day, the pitches are going to be the pitches and the conditions are going to be the conditions. April will be what April will be. May and June will be what May and June will be.
Yeah.
So you can't I guess, change Mother Nature and conditions in that sense.
No.
I think it's just finding ways and being creative for these guys to have an opportunity to continue to bowl meaningful overs in competitive scenarios and environments that allow them to continue to grow.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to get into a series again where they talk about both of them came into the India series talking about the lack of volume of first-class cricket they played. Well, if you don't get the strategy right in there, they're going to join to do the next away series in turning conditions, and they'll only have an extra 4 or 5, 6 games down the line. It's not going to help the development really, but that's something for the ECB to have at the end of the day and talk about. But hopefully they go to Dharamsala for the 5th test. I think it's a little bit more seamer friendly by all accounts. There, I think they were talking about the temperatures dropped quite a lot, and there's a bit of sleet forecast, which is bizarre to think that happens in India. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I just think from England's perspective, they need to finish this. They deserve, in my opinion, because they played some good cricket. They just let themselves down. As I've ranted over a few times, I think England have got a chance now to try and bring this series to a little bit more of a 3-2 rather than the 4-1. But I don't know. Are you smirking? Exactly. I know what you're laughing at and smirking at.
4-1.
Yeah.
With Bumrah coming back in, it's not going to be easy, and seamer-friendly conditions in Dharamshala.
No.
I think the last thing that you want to be doing is, I guess, baseball approach in seamer-friendly conditions. Remember, they've mostly been playing on that flat approach in flat conditions. So it's going to be interesting to see if the ball does go, how they do, I guess, play or adapt their styles to suit.
Yeah. Well, this is what they've got to do at the end of the day. We can't have it our own way. We're playing on flat wickets. We're going to have to adapt. And obviously, like I spoke so highly. Obviously, we both spoke so highly of Joe Root's innings, and that's because he adapted. The other batters and the other bowlers have got to do the same: is work out a way of adapting their game in whatever condition, whatever the conditions may be. And I think that hopefully we'll start to see that to take place a little bit, and hopefully England can start to see some positive results. And then obviously they'll play the 5th test, and then it goes into the English summer where. It could be anything. Obviously, the weather plays a massive part in England as well, so it could be anything we get.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. The baseball approach has sort of been Donald Trump-esque, isn't it? It's believe whatever we say, not what you see. So it'll be interesting to see how they go.
No. Well, thanks very much for tonight. Anyway, hopefully there's a speedy recovery. Not too far down the line, and we'll see you in the next round of games. But thanks very much, Kai.
Cheers, Jordan. Good speaking.
You too. Cheers.